3 of Edwy, a poem in 3 parts by Radcliffe. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Part 3, The Magic Mirrors, A Summer Night in Windsor Forest. Edwy forsook the fairy court, and to forest glades withdrew, where never yet had elfin sport cheered the melancholy view. Upon the hazel wands he writes Ada's name with thrice and three, then buries them, with bidden rites, underneath a forest tree. It was an oak, whose trunk within a foul and watching spirit lay, whose night shrieks in the tempest din filled the traveller with dismay. It was an oak, whose sinewy boughs threw a dark horror o'er the ground, whose high gaunt top and warrior brows with the storms of ages frowned. Its trunk was never touched with light, so wide and deep the branching shade of leaves that on a starry night a gleam like break of morning shed. But the brook, stealing from the brake, showed a glimpse of brighter ray, when on its dewy banks did take Will-o'-the-wisp his mystic way. Round the high roots our Edwy drew, with muttered charm, a magic line, and in the circle's heart's ease threw, and bryony and eglantine. Then sweets and poisons 3 and 3, jessamine blossoms, violet bud, the deadly nightshade's tresses grey, and the pale monk's gloomy head. Next the buried wands he raised, and Ada, Ada, Ada called. Thrice upon the west he gazed, when hark! A shriek his breast appalled. It was the spirit of the oak, who, startled by the love-fay's name, his dark and secret home forsook. He fled in haste whene'er she came. A tongue from Windsor's distant tower told 12 along the silent wood, when lo, the planet of the hour quivered upon the trembling flood. Cheered by the monitory sight, then Edwy forth his mirrors drew, and by that star's informing light upheld them to his searching view. Again he called on Ada's name, mildly and meekly to appear, and round the crystals rolled a flame, while unknown murmurs met his ear. See, o'er the mirror's mists arise, and strange and fearful shadows throng, frowning faces, glaring eyes, look and threat and glance along. These gone, a tiny form there bounds, flitting along the magic glass, which in an instant her surrounds, with leaves of love in idleness. She seems reclining in a bower, as the green leaves around her spread. The motley yellow, purple flower bends in a topknot o'er her head. As round this cage of wreaths she hies, forth from her wand a lustre pale dawns o'er her blue and frolic eyes, and silvers all her dewy veil. Touches the rose upon her cheek, the dimple that her quaint lip owns, the smile that now begins to break through clouds of wild, capricious frowns. While Edwy gazed, a little strain of sweet complaint did feebly swell, when hovering round her leafy chain, behold, her faithful nightingale! He perched upon the true knot there, and tried to break, with slender bill, her prison wreath so flowery fair, but the leaves mocked his puny skill. Too late she owns the forceful spell the little purple blossom throws. Fixed as a painting, she must tell, mildly and meekly, all she knows. Fairy Ada, show to me Aura, as she's now employed. On the other glass you'll see, with pretty lisp the fay replied. He looked, the colours faintly dawn, and living forms begin to glow. Aura, full dressed in lace and lawn, blooms in a ballroom with a bow, and dancing with a grace's air, and with the eyes of Venus smiling. Edwy beheld her with despair, his hated rival's heart beguiling. To atoms he had almost dashed the mirror, and so lost the spell. But warning lights around him flashed, checked his hand, and all was well. Who is this fop, so light and vain? Quickly the magic scene is changed to rivers, woods, a wide domain, with falconers on the banks ranged. All at their head his rival pranced, in velvet cap with feathers gay, and proudly o'er the sward advanced, while men and steeds their lord obey. Oh, tell me, Ada, loves she him? Can she her promise old forget? A flame curled round the mirror's rim, the crystal darkened into jet, and in long moonlight prospect rose Windsor Terrace flanked with towers. How soft the lights and shades repose among the low park's lawns and bowers. Oh, what an arch the heavens throw upon the vast horizon round! The stars, how numberless they glow, down to the landscape's dim scene bound. Some battlements are left in night, others almost appear to shine of yonder tower whose stately height draws on the sky a tall black line, that measures on the azure void billions of miles, while worlds unknown, distant howe'er, glow side by side upon its shadowy profile shone. Down on the terrace men appear, gliding along the stately wall, with arms enfolding the tall spear. How still their measured footsteps fall! Voices are heard round that vast shade, although no talkers meet the sight. But beyond, where moonbeams spread, figures steal upon the light. 'Twas Aura with a lady friend, 'twas Aura with this lover new. Ah, does she to his suit attend? The distance baffled Edwy's view. Ada, Ada, why torment me with obscure, ambiguous truth? Thou to show my fate wast sent me. Say, will she wed this fopling youth? Behold, the terrace fades away, and a tapstried room succeeds, her sire with age and wisdom grey, mid lawyer, settlements, and deed. Again the charmed picture changed, a Gothic porch with silk all hung. There beaux and ladies fair are ranged, while humbler gazers round them throng. There a happy rival waited, with his friends in trim array. Aura, what makes thee belated? Aura, why this long delay? Again the mirrors were in danger from our thoughtless Edwy's rage, but a faerie checked his anger, would she might his grief assuage. Next dimly on the crystal steals a chamber in her father's home. There Aura weeping pleads and kneels, the father frowning quits the room. Again the changeful glass receives the porch, and Edwy doth he tremble, as smiling Aura there he sees. And whom doth the bridegroom resemble? It is himself! He's joyous, frantic, as the glass showed his happy shape. But as he sprung, with gesture antic, it fell, and let the faerie 'scape. Without due homage let her fly, straight unknown voices from the ground wildly exclaimed, "Oh, fie, fie, fie!" And "Fie, fie, fie!" the echoes sound. Unhomaged he had let her fly, from the old oak an owlet hooted, and thence a louder "Fie, fie, fie!" to the spot poor Edwy rooted. But soon recovered, through the woods, hopeful and light, away he sprung. The moon peeped through their leafy hoods, and o'er the path her chequers flung. To the forest's edge he hied, where the beech's giant form had for age on age defied with his lion fangs the storm. Where the lime with spotted bark, spots that old moss on silver weaves, hung her spray on branches dark, among the light transparent leaves, and fragrant blossoms forming bowers that cast at noon a twilight green, where 'twas most sweet to watch the hours change the highly tinctured scene. The silvery aspen quivered nigh, the spiry pine in darkness rose, the ash, all airy grace on high, waved her lightly feathered boughs. And there the mighty chestnut reared his massy verdure deepening night, whose pale flowers through the dark appeared like gleams of April's coldest light. Under the low boughs Edwy went, shade after shade in close array, a sadder tint to midnight lent, and thoughtless Edwy lost his way. Now far beyond the long drawn gloom, where a faint misty moonlight fell, he watched a lonely figure roam, and loud he made the echoes swell. His call was heard, the stranger turned, and paused a moment, but in vain. Our Edwy would his way have learned, for not a word in answer came. The vision fled, but soon a cry, loud though far off, alarmed his ear, and a footstep passed him by, which he followed fast and near, till a groan of sad affright almost killed him with dismay, and to his undoubting sight there a man expiring lay. As horror fixed, a while he stood, a cloud o'erspread its darkening veil, it suited well his fearful mood, it hid that dreadful visage pale. Now mark where yonder high elms crowd, what red lights gleam and pass along, what funeral torches, dirges loud, a bier and mourners rounded throng. Down th'avenues of pines they go, all sad and chanting their despair, then wind they on in pomp of woe, then fade and vanish into air. For yonder, o'er the eastern hill, morning's crystal tint is seen, edging the darkness, solemn still, and glimmering o'er the sleeping scene. O best of light, O light of soul, O blessed dawn, to thee we owe the humbled thought, our mind's best dole, the bliss of praise, devotion's glow. O blessed dawn, more sweet to me, thy gradual hues, thy influence fine, o'er flying darkness, than the ray and glorious pomp that doth enshrine the cope of heaven, when the sun comes laughing from the joyous east, and bids th' expressive shadows run, to tell his coming to the west. At thy first tint the happy lark awakes and trills his note of joy, and feebler warbling murmurs, hark! Break from the woodlands, rise and die. At thy first tint, O blessed light, th'observant elves and spectres fled, and that misguiding, watching sprite, home to her oaken dungeon sped. Elphana then, the mischief fay, who with an urchin had combined, to wilder Edwy thus astray, now in a monk's hood is confined. No dying man was there, no moan, there were no red lights near the elms, no funeral torches, dirges moan, no sable band whom grief o'erwhelms. Still doubtful of his homeward way, our hero watched the rise of dawn, over a beech tree's airy spray, that trembles on the park's high lawn. And soon the glorious sun was spied, and Windsor in her pomp of groves rose up in battlemented pride, queen of the vale that old Thames loves, from where the far-seen western hill in smiling slumber seems to lie, upon the azure vault so still as listening heaven's harmony, to where beneath the eastern ray, with swelling dome and spires aloft, vast London's lengthened city lay, all miniatured, distinct and soft, to where upon the northern edge learned Harrow points her vane, and Stanmore lifts its heathy ridge, sloping to the cultured plain, which purpled with the morning's glow to boundless tints of azure fades, while humbler spires and hamlets show their sunlights o'er the woody shades, and gleaming Thames along the vale midst willowy meads his waters led, while here and there a feeble sail was to the scarce felt breeze outspread. The willowy meads and lawns rejoice, and every heath and warbling wood, the fragrant air with whispering voice, the golden clouds, the brightened flood, all laugh and sing beneath the morn, the dancing lamb, the springing deer, the wild bee with his humming horn, and loud and long Sir Chanticleer. Soon as his joyous clarion calls, answering notes strike up and swell from rafter dark and loopholed walls, where sleep and silence seemed to dwell, surprising with their clamour clear the passing herdsman and his hound. Thus far and near Sir Chanticleer rouses up all the country round. Edwy so roused, who long had stood over this scene of morning beauty, forgetting every other good, and lost to each forgotten duty, now bounding lightly down the hills, and through the high o'erarching groves, hied to his home, where Ada wills he soon shall wed the nymph he loves. And grateful for the boon she grants, he now resolves that never more his spell shall shock her quiet haunts, and quite abjures the magic lore. But never let impatient wight, when he presumes to woo a faerie, destroy his glass or rouse her spite, but civil be, and very wary. Thus all was well, as watchmen tell, of faerie sports in Windsor glades, save that too long a summer song once lingered in those witching shades. End of part 3. End of Edwy, a poem in 3 parts by Anne Radcliffe.